Blue Marvel. Marvel has several powerhouse characters who are effectively its answers to Superman, and one of those heroes is Hyperion. Ever since the first incarnation of the character debuted in Avengers number 69, Hyperion has been one of the most powerful figures in the Marvel multiverse in all of his forms. But none of those forms have been as destructive or dangerous as King Hyperion, a reality-traveling threat who destroyed entire worlds and their most powerful heroes before making his way into the main Marvel universe. But King Hyperion didn't stand a hope in hell against the Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel Adam Brashear is one of the best Marvel superheroes, one of my favorites and one of the absolutely undefeatable. He's taken on all the Avengers' entire alien armadas, he has lifted a meteor the size of Arkansas and guided it away, and he's uppercutted the hell out of the Ultimate Universe Hulk. Hyperion says he's defeated Blue Marvels before, but he hasn't faced Earth 616's. While he put Blue Marvel down initially, when Hyperion threatened the innocent bystanders nearby, Blue Marvel found a new strength. Letting loose in a way he hadn't before, it took 5 blows before Hyperion was out cold and Blue Marvel stood over him victorious. Number 9. Thor and Hyperion. With the end of the multiverse staring down the heroes of the 616 Marvel Universe across the Jonathan Hickman run on Avengers and New Avengers, Thor and a handful of other heroes like Hyperion, Starbrand, Nightmask, Ex Nihilo, and Abyss ventured across the multiverse to confront the Beyonders, responsible for the collapse of the Marvel multiverse. Now, wielding the Hammer of Thor, that's with 2 R's, which can only be used by those that are considered unworthy, Thor went into battle alongside the others, giving everything he had and helping bring down just 2 of the Beyonders at the cost of his arm in New Avengers number 32. Now, after facing just 2 of the Beyonders, only Thor and Hyperion survived the battle. Unfortunately, that battle ended just for another to begin as an entire army of Beyonders descended upon them. In one of the most badass moments in Marvel Comics, realizing that Thor can no longer wield Thor with 2 R's hammer because he has proven himself worthy once again, Thor and Hyperion laugh together and race each other to Valhalla as they throw themselves into this one final battle against an enemy that they have no hope of defeating. Number 8. Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau is an insanely powerful cosmic hero, and being one of the heroes to hold the title of Captain Marvel, we would expect no less. Way back in Avengers number 248, a battle was taking place between the Avengers and various Olympians. One of the main fights taking place was between Zeus, a sky father on par with Odin himself, and the god of thunder himself, Thor. Now, to be quite frank, Zeus thrashed Thor like he was a badly behaved little boy. Zeus had Thor down and is about to literally wipe him from this plane of existence when out of nowhere, Monica Rambeau shows up. Shooting Zeus with a little blast of energy that cuts his arm, she orders him to back off of Thor or she will do much worse. Now, Zeus, obviously not seeing her as a threat, fires off a lightning bolt that simply phases right through her living light body, doing absolutely nothing to her. So, in retaliation, she tells him the gloves are off and flies in, hitting Zeus with a blast that lights up the entirety of Olympus. And while Zeus was not defeated, Thor makes note of the fact that Monica hurt him more than any mortal had ever done before, and it shows. Number 7. Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is easily one of the strongest of Marvel's cosmic heroes. He can do some absolutely insane things, and he has had some massively impressive fights. But one of the ones that I think shows just how powerful he is would be his first ever fight against Null, the symbiote god. At the start of 2018's Guardians of the Galaxy series by Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw, the Silver Surfer was swallowed in a black hole that transported him billions of years into the past, landing him in Silver Surfer Black. At the beginning of time, Silver Surfer faced Null in battle when the symbiote god was just beginning to rise in power, and it was one hell of a fight. Null proved to be an extremely difficult opponent, which we know he is from his fight against literally all of Earth's heroes. Silver Surfer was going to the extent of his power trying to defeat Null in combat, and Null is still getting the best of him using All Black the Necro Sword and his other symbiotes. With Surfer on the ropes facing off against the God of Darkness, he uses the last little bits of his power cosmic that he has to create an entirely new sun point blank in front of Null's creepy little face. While he knows it doesn't defeat Null permanently, it does defeat him for the time being, and it's just super awesome. Number 6. Superman. In Superman number 127, we are introduced to Titano the Super Ape. Now, he started off as a smart ape named Toto that was sent into space, but then was accidentally exposed to radiation from 2 colliding meteors. Now this, for some reason, grew Toto into a massive King Kong style ape who is now named Titano, and it also gave Titano the ability to fire rays of green kryptonite out of his eyes. I don't know. Obviously that is a big problem for Superman, who couldn't really get in close to this super cryptovision ape. But luckily, Superman's girlfriend is able to trick Titano into wearing lead sunglasses that stop the kryptonite rays, at which point Superman just picked up the giant super ape and threw him back through time. Superman chucked his super monkey through time back to the prehistoric era where he could interact with dinosaurs. Yes, Superman is so strong that he can literally throw things through time. He's also thrown Jimmy Olsen through time before, but who cares? This is a giant ape. Number 5. Franklin Richards. While he may not be considered entirely a cosmic level superhero, Franklin Richards, the son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, is destined to become a key factor in the cosmic landscape of the Marvel Universe. His power to warp reality is so great that he has created entire pocket universes. Now, in one reality, appearing in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 604, Franklin appeared as an adult, and we saw a glimpse of just how powerful he can be. In the story, a grown Franklin and Valeria Richards worked together with their grandfather Nathaniel Richards to travel into the past to influence their younger counterparts and to help fight against the mad Celestials that were threatening the entire world. Galactus was called on by the Fantastic Four to help, and although he brought down one Celestial, the others combined their power and were too much for Galactus to handle. Enter Franklin. Restoring Galactus and imbuing him with enough cosmic energy to stand up to the Celestials, Franklin turned Galactus into his own herald, defeating the Celestials and then being humble enough to give up that power after the fight was over. All the other heroes could do was just look up into the sky and watch in awe. It was actually kinda epic. Number 4. John Stewart Green Lantern. A Green Lantern's power ring is capable of almost anything, but even it has its limits. However, that didn't stop John Stewart from attempting to recreate an entire solar system in Green Lantern number 26. When reflecting on the destruction of the planet Zanshi and its solar system, which is an event that John blames himself for, the hero tried his damnedest to try and bring the world back with just his ring. He broke past the programming of his ring and got pretty damn close to completely rebuilding the entire solar system. Unfortunately, such a construct was too much even with John's iron will, but the fact that he got so close shows how far a power ring can really go when effort is put into it. But let's try one even more than that, shall we? Yeah. Number 3. Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was possibly the greatest Green Lantern ever, according to the comics at least. But in the 90s, that kinda changed. After the death of Superman and the subsequent reign of the Supermen, Coast City, Hal Jordan's home, was destroyed. This completely changed the Lantern, and he completely broke the programming of his own power ring to revive the city. He created the entire city's layout with all of its buildings, parks, streets, everything. But it wasn't quite right. It wasn't the same. It needed life. So Hal went completely against the Green Lantern's rules and made constructs of all the once living inhabitants of Coast City, millions of people. When the Guardians of the Universe tried to stop him, he completely snapped. He went off the handle, ending the lives of every Green Lantern and naming himself Parallax. Hal became a threat to the whole DC universe for like a decade before eventually sacrificing himself. Sure, he went bad, but he absolutely did not hold back against anyone. Number 2. Orion. Orion is a new god and the son of Darkseid, and as a hero with a dark ancestry, he is quite the conflicted do-gooder. He has many forms and he has many abilities. He exists beyond the normal multiverse on a higher plane called the Sphere of the Gods. Born on Apocalypse but adopted by the gods of New Genesis, Orion is in a constant war with his inner darkness and with his father, Darkseid. Orion is repeatedly praised and stated to be a warrior with skill and ferocity second to none, and in one of his many displays of pure power, he completely wipes out his father. When Darkseid came to Earth, heroes like the Atom and an empowered Jimmy Olsen fought him until a boom tube opened up and Orion came out. The heroes stood aside and let Orion fight Darkseid on his own, and he absolutely wrecked the guy in one slog of a fight. At the end of the fight, after beating down on Darkseid to the level of wiping out entire city blocks, Orion wiped out Darkseid by plunging his hand straight into his father's chest, grabbing his fiery heart and ripping it out clean, leaving Darkseid as a pile of charred bones. And finally, in at number 1 today, the Sentry. Near the end of the Planet Hulk storyline, the shuttle the Hulk was sent to Sakaar in by the Illuminati at the beginning blows up, wiping out Hulk's new family and the lives of millions of individuals on Sakaar. This pushes the Hulk into a whole new level of anger, which is directed squarely at the Illuminati. So he headed to Earth with his war sworn. When he got to Earth, after quickly stopping at the moon to wreck Black Bolt, he headed to New York, giving the city a time limit to be evacuated, and when that time limit stopped, he defeated everyone who was left. Iron Man and the Hulkbuster, the Avengers plus their tower, the US Army, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Juggernaut, Doctor Strange using the power of Zom, and the Ghost Rider, all while saving innocent bystanders. He then threw the Illuminati members he captured into the ring against each other, sparing them only as he sought justice, not to end lives. Well, the Illuminati had one last-ditch effort to stop the Hulk: the Sentry. Coming in against probably the only being who could take it, Sentry unleashed almost everything he had against the Hulk, leveling city blocks and causing a massive column of fire. These two went blow for blow over and over until they both used up so much energy that they reverted back to their regular human forms, with a depowered Bruce Banner getting in a final punch to bring Sentry down. Number 10, Flash Gordon. Dun 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 dun. Flash! Savior of the universe! Well, Alex Raymond created Flash Gordon in 1934 solely to compete with another futuristic space hero, Buck Rogers. The character set itself apart as Flash's adventures took him farther and farther into the strange worlds and locations of space. The handsome polo-playing Earthling was transported to an alien world dealing with the rule of a horrible evil ruler, Ming the Merciless. Flash became a hero to the world of Mongo, fighting alongside characters like Prince Vultan of the Hawkmen and Prince Baron, the displaced ruler of Mongo, to overthrow the villainous Ming. In the 1950s, Flash became an astronaut who traveled to other planets besides Mongo. Using starships that can travel faster than light, the long story of the Scorpio War takes Flash to other star systems. Flash and friends also fought a bunch of other villains, including Azura, the Witch Queen, Brucka, chieftain of the Giants of Phrygia, the Red Sword organization on Earth, and Brazor, the tyrannical usurper of Tropica. His story and adventures only carry on with other writers and into that really campy but awesome movie. Number 9, Green Lantern. Though many characters have held the title of Green Lantern, none is as iconic as Hal Jordan. Hal was a test pilot who found a dying alien, Abin Sur, in the wreckage of a crashed spaceship who was a member of the Green Lantern Corps, an intergalactic police force that wielded strange power rings. In his dying moments, Abin Sur passed his ring on to Hal Jordan, drafting him into the Corps and granting him the power to create anything his mind could envision so long as he remained totally honest and completely fearless. Although Hal Jordan's assigned sector of the universe includes Earth, it also includes about 33 other planets, all of which need his and his other Green Lanterns' help. And that's not including the whole rest of the universe, which also falls under the care of the Green Lantern Corps as a whole. Hal Jordan has had many ups and downs as a character, even at one time betraying the Green Lantern Corps and eventually giving his life to redeem himself. Don't you worry, he eventually returned to life in Jeff Johns' landmark miniseries Green Lantern Rebirth, which I highly recommend you read. Number 8. Captain Marvel, an alien warrior named Mar-Vell, whose adventures eventually brought him to Earth and into the path of the Avengers, was the individual who would first go by the name Captain Marvel in Marvel Comics. Wielding a pair of energy-wielding negabands, and with the ever-useful cosmic awareness, Mar-Vell found himself voyaging through strange worlds in an iconic example of the way-out superhero space stories taking place at Marvel Comics in the 70s. Though Mar-Vell passed away due to cancer in the early 1980s, the Captain Marvel name did not. Monica Rambeau was the second person to hold the title in the comics after Mar-Vell. Monica's powers are truly extraordinary. She can transform herself into any form of energy on the electromagnetic spectrum, such as light or X-rays. She can also use that energy to fly through space at the speed of light, generate energy beams, become intangible, and more. She was even powerful enough to stop the symbiote god Null during his first invasion. The most recent holder of the Captain Marvel title, however, would be Carol Danvers. She began her career as Miss Marvel in 1977's Miss Marvel #1 after meeting Mar-Vell in 1968's Marvel Superheroes #13, and he exposed her to the energies that transformed her into a human Kree hybrid. And her powers have evolved significantly since her debut. She can generate energy blasts of varying scope as well as absorb energy attacks that are extremely volatile. Captain Marvel is also generally invulnerable to magic and, in the recent comics, is even exploring using magic herself, making her even more powerful. Number 7. Martian Manhunter. Though many people don't realize it, John Johns, the Manhunter from Mars, is one of DC Comics' most powerful superheroes. This quiet and humble Martian, in addition to possessing all of the many powers that Kryptonians also share, is also a shapeshifter who can morph his body however he wishes and is one of the DC Universe's most powerful telepaths. He can turn invisible, effortlessly phase through solid objects, or make his fists as hard as a diamond as he punches someone in the face, nearly as hard as Superman can. He was a law enforcement officer on Mars before he became a detective on Earth when he was marooned here, but being an alien, he is intrinsically tied to the wider galaxy and has many adventures that go out into the stars. But like many cosmic superheroes, he has a quiet, reserved personality which, when you learn just how incredibly powerful he is, it makes you just respect him that much more. Number 6. Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer has a pretty iconic internal fight. The constant struggle between responsibility and morality in a universe where evil is often more necessary than good. Sorry, I read that quote while I was making this video and gosh, it's so good. The Surfer was originally Norrin Rad, an astronomer from the planet Zen La. When Rad discovered that Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds, had come to devour Zen La's life force, Rad struck a deal with the cosmic entity to seek out uninhabited planets that Galactus could consume. Eventually, Galactus became aware of Earth and set out to make it his next meal. The Surfer arrived just in time to warn the Fantastic Four of Galactus' arrival, which was what initiated his initial reveal into the universe of Marvel in Fantastic Four number 48 to 50, and started a great relationship between the Surfer and the superhero family. The Silver Surfer's adventures often center on philosophical conundrums as much as physical challenges, and Stan Lee has used the Surfer as a vessel to express some of the writer's own worldviews. As for his powers, he is in possession of the power cosmic, which granted him both power projection and absorption, as well as a degree of matter manipulation and even soul manipulation, among many other abilities. Number 5. Superman. Superman often finds himself exploring the far-flung reaches of other galaxies as well as defending Earth, and specifically his city of Metropolis. Stories frequently find the superhero in locations ranging from the region of space where his birth planet Krypton once orbited, which, fun fact, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, is in the Corvus constellation near red dwarf LHS 2520. In case you wanted to know that, I don't know. To planets like New Genesis and Apocalypse, the twin home of the New Gods. Stories have seen him holding black holes with his hands, moving solar systems, punching death, and he broke Highfather's staff out of the Source Wall, which is the barrier between us and the unifying force of the universe. Which my puny brain cannot really even comprehend what that means, so we're just gonna carry on. Okay. Number 4. Orion of the New Gods. Orion is a new god and the son of Darkseid, and as a hero with a dark ancestry, he is quite the conflicted do-gooder. He has many forms and he has many abilities. He exists beyond the normal multiverse on a higher plane called the Sphere of the Gods. Born on Apocalypse but adopted by the new gods of New Genesis, Orion is in a constant war with his inner darkness and with his father, Darkseid. Orion is repeatedly praised and stated to be a warrior with skill and ferocity second to none. While undercover on Apocalypse, he was the greatest warrior and would have slaughtered the entire army during training, quote unquote. He has held open the hand of the god of strength and might who is threatening creation and ripping holes in reality with his strength. He stands against and fights a sun-amped Superman one-on-one, something no one else in the Justice League was able to do. And he can tank star system destroying explosions, so there's that. Orion moves with the speed of thought. His intelligence was enough that he created the Genesis box, which can destroy and rebuild a universe. He can grow to any size, move through time, has a healing factor, super senses, and wields the Astro Force, which does a hell of a lot on top of everything, but as an example, it once sealed holes in reality and knocked out Superman in a single shot. And that's all just Orion holding back and not using his true power called the Source of the Beast. But I think we can all agree Orion is the beast here. Number 3. Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is one of the most powerful cosmic characters, maybe not just in Marvel Comics. He was the keeper of the Soul Gem, and beyond the powers that comes with, which allowed him to pass back and forth into the Soul World, he is immortal, able to regenerate himself and gain new powers using a cocoon, and can manipulate matter and energy on a cosmic scale. Warlock was created by a group of researchers who called themselves the Enclave. Their goal was to create the perfect human being, the pinnacle of future human evolution. The creature they had created emerged and immediately sensed that something was not quite poppin' with his creators. They wanted to use him for evil, so he escaped and became Space Jesus in the Marvel Universe, and there's no other appropriate title for him. I don't care what you say. He has destroyed and rebuilt reality, is the avatar of life, and has even become the living tribunal, otherwise known as the Judge of the Universe. Number 2. Divinity from Valiant Comics. Abram Adams, otherwise known as Divinity, is an incredibly powerful godlike hero who appears in Valiant Comics. He's a lot like Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan, who may be coming up later, I don't know. His power is so great that he is basically a god. Knowing full well the impact his actions could have, he doesn't really involve himself in human level issues, letting us instead learn from the mistakes we naturally make, which we rarely seem to do. Abram came into his power after joining the army of the Soviet Union and taking on a 30-year-long mission into deep space. Abrams and his partners came upon a planet at the end of the galaxy, or beyond, called the Unknown. After removing his helmet, Abram Adams breathed in the air of the unknown and was changed. The powers bestowed upon Divinity are as such: chronokinesis, which is the ability to manipulate time, forced evolution and de-evolution, energy manipulation, molecular manipulation, reality warping, flight, solar flare and heat vision, telepathy. He has super senses, can survive in space and other vacuums, not vacuum cleaners, but I'm sure he'd do fine inside one of those too. And in case you haven't guessed it, he is also immortal. I think of all the heroes on this list, Divinity is easily one of the most powerful. But not number 1. Number 1. Dr. Manhattan. After he was destroyed and reconstituted from the atomic experiment gone wrong, John Osterman, also known as Dr. Manhattan, has no need for food, sleep, or oxygen and no longer ages. He has nigh omniscience and possesses an understanding of the workings of the universe on a cosmic scale, which puts him comfortably in this list. But more than that, he has reality warping and matter manipulation powers, allowing him to end literally everything if he wants to, which he foresaw himself doing, so he obviously has precognition even as far as a millennium into the future, and he can even see alternate possible futures. He has causality and time manipulation, which allowed him to return the metaverse to how it was before the interference and remove 10 years from the universe's timeline, creating the New 52 in DC Comics. In a crazy show of power, John experiences all the reboots in DC continuity, and yet he remains unaffected, and additionally, John exists in every timeline all at once, meaning that he has duplication and dimensional travel abilities as well. He possesses elemental manipulation, creating a ring of blue fire, producing an oxygen field, creating water, and producing electricity. He can phase through things, create human life, make plants grow. He has instantly analyzed and learned magic after being attacked with it, and absorbed energy from a Green Lantern ring, and even absorbed magical attacks. Dr. Manhattan is basically a cosmic god, so number 1. Number 10, Brainiac, the collector of worlds. Kinda like those weirdos who collect snow globes. Brainiac is considered one of Superman's stronger and actually not boring foes. Brainiac's level of intellect supersedes humans by several centuries of advanced knowledge. He's so smart that his intelligence actually creates his other powers, if that even makes sense. For example, he can interconnect his consciousness with other computer systems, possess other beings, and even transfer knowledge and information to himself from others. Now, the original Brainiac's purpose was to capture cities and assimilate knowledge in order to gain power. Part of his operating procedure is collecting civilizations for study and preserving his knowledge of alien species so that he remains the most supreme being in the universe, and then destroying planets and galaxies in his wake to prevent the knowledge from spreading. Now, because of his ability to interface with networks and possess living organisms, he has become basically omniscient. Brainiac has gained the ability to spread like a virus and hold massive influence over entire populations. It has even learned from his encounters with Superman and developed countermeasures to thwart the Man of Steel. Number 9, Galactus. The being formerly known as Galen of the planet Ta lived before the modern cosmos, in the previous cosmos actually. Galen gestated with the sentience of the universe for billions of years, transforming into the devourer of worlds, finding sustenance by ingesting entire planets, preferably those with living sentient beings that have much more energy for him to harness. When Galactus destroys and consumes planets, he is sort of bringing balance to the universe. Kind of like how life is given and taken every day on Earth, which makes him an essential part of the universe. He's known for the destruction of the Skrull Empire and has attempted to devour the Earth so many freaking times. And I guess other planets for that matter too, or whatever. Galactus is also famous for his heralds, such as the Silver Surfer and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and so many others. And while they are all powerful beings themselves, usually even before they gain the herald power boost, they don't hold a candle to Galactus himself. His only caveat is that Galactus's power depends on his planet's consumption. So a weakened Galactus has been killed before, but if he eats like 4 or more planets, he's been able to defeat multiple mad celestials all by himself. He's powered by food, and I think pretty much all of us can get behind that. Number 8, Thanos. Thanos, who made his debut in Iron Man number 55 in February of 1973, has only one goal, and that goal is to conquer the galaxy. If you are only familiar with his movie adaptation, then you may not know that comics Thanos is not really much of an altruistic dude. The Mad Titan doesn't seek to eliminate half of life in the known universe in order to create a better one. He simply wanted to impress a girl. But not in the same way you might think. Thanos has a thing for death. In fact, he fell in love with the Mistress Death, who is the physical embodiment of death in Marvel Comics. Now, to prove his love, he was going to destroy all the life in the universe, and that's what led to him assembling the Infinity Stones and trying to wield the Cosmic Cube. He's really just a cosmic-level serial unaliver, if you want to call him that. Thanos was born on Titan, a moon of Saturn, and is technically an Eternal, but he possessed a deviant gene which made him very different looking. Now, he was bullied for this as a child, and as such, Thanos distances himself from his society, and even starts dissecting animals, doing all that creepy stuff. He has gone far in his obsession with Mistress Death, kidnapping his own mother and dissecting her, training his daughter to become an assassin, and even sending a targeted nuclear strike at his own homeworld. He has the power of telekinesis and matter manipulation, has superhuman intellect, can master any technology, time travel, teleport, and is an incredibly powerful and scary dude. Number 7, Null. Null existed long before even the Celestials in the 6th incarnation of the Multiverse, where he existed in basically nothingness. But when the Celestials created the 7th Multiverse, Null was mad that he got woken up, so he created the all-black Necro Sword and beheaded a Celestial. For this insane feat of power, he was banished to a void, where he works on the sword, and eventually he goes out into the universe killing various gods until he loses the Necro Sword to Gore the God Butcher after he's defeated by an unnamed god. He then goes on to make more and more symbiotes, yes, like the symbiotes like Venom, who all shared a hive mind under the control of Null. They eventually rebel and imprison Null inside the symbiote homeworld Clintar. In the 2020 King in Black story, Null is brought to Earth and faces off against all the heroes. He's one of the strongest villains in Marvel. He is immortal, super strong, instantly heals, can create an unlimited amount of symbiotes made of the living abyss, some of which have been incredibly powerful on their own, and can control them all. The Silver Surfer had to use all the reserves of the Power Cosmic to just temporarily stop Null. Thor using the Power Cosmic and the Thor Force was no match for Null. He was awoken, enslaved, and controlled Celestials, and even defeated Sentry, ripping him in half and absorbing the Void. The only thing that defeated him was Eddie Brock's Venom wielding the Unipower, which is Captain Universe, the protector of the universe, and the opposite to everything pretty much Null represents. Number 6. Urizen. In the world of Image Comics Spawn, Urizen is a dark entity whose status rises above both heaven and hell. He existed since the dawn of time before either of the realms and was initially one of the elder gods of the universe. Urizen existed to provide balance to the universe in life and death. He consumed the souls of the living in order to maintain this balance. Now, as both heaven and hell sought to fight for the souls of the dead in order to wage war against each other, they both saw Urizen as a threat. They weirdly joined forces in an act of desperation and seal the Elder God away so that they can keep fighting? I guess? Maybe I'm understanding it wrong, but basically, this primordial being can't be killed or defeated. It takes a literal act of heaven and hell to even lock it away. Once devils from hell unleash Urizen, he begins a rampage in the modern time. As an Elder God, Urizen not only has limitless strength, but he can bend the fabric of reality and time, which is a level of power hard to even understand, really. Even Spawn was defeated in his battle against the entity, but luckily, death doesn't really mean anything to him, and the undead warrior returns to the fight. But still, there's no way to actually kill Urizen. Spawn's only hope is to seal the Elder God away for another inevitable rampage down the line. Number 5, the Chaos King. While he is relatively obscure, he is nothing to scoff at. Amatsu Mikabashi, first appearing in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, is the Japanese god of chaos, evil, and he was an aspect of the cosmic being Oblivion. Mikabashi ruled and thrived over the earth when it was nothing more than a formless void of primordial darkness. And as such, his goal now is to put an end to creation and bring about a new age of chaos and void. He is a primordial being who was imprisoned in Yomi, the Shinto underworld, where he remained for centuries accruing an army of Oni, which is Shinma demons, and other monsters and stuff like that. During the events of Ares, god of war, Chaos King attacks Olympus after he had defeated and controlled the Japanese pantheon after the fall of Asgard during the Ragnarok event. This is what kickstarts his mission in Chaos War, where he slays the Egyptian gods, the Celtic gods, the Shi'ar gods, the gods of Zen law. He takes out Nightmare in the Dream Dimension, destroys Mephisto, and casts Mistress Death out of hell, making her literally run away. Oh, and he releases the souls of the damned. He has the power to defeat eternity and is practically unfazed by attacks from the likes of Zeus, God Hercules, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and Thor could not defeat the Chaos King. To win, Hercules had to punch him into a portal to an endless void of nothingness, and this was after he had destroyed 98.76% of the universe. Damn. Number 4, Darkseid. In the New 52, Uxas, who would become Darkseid, whispers doubt into the ears of the gods, sending them into a war with each other, which is when he takes them out and steals their power, making himself the first of the new gods, quote unquote. He has immeasurable strength. He is immortal, nearly invulnerable, surviving an explosion that could destroy existence. He wields the cosmic Omega effect, using Omega beams to hurt Superman and even the Spectre. He can remove people from existence, and using the Omega Sanction, he can trap people in an endless loop of increasingly horrible lives. Telepathically strong enough to control the population of a planet, he can use telekinesis, teleport, control the time stream, and manipulate matter. He's super smart, has advanced technology, and controls Apocalypse and the army of parademons. But almost everything he does is through avatars he creates, because he is the embodiment of evil. He can do anything he wants to and can never truly be defeated except for true form Highfather. Darkseid's motivations are rather simple: conquer and control all life by unlocking and solving the anti-life equation, something DC fans saw him actually achieve in last summer's Final Crisis. What makes him fun is that he chooses to manipulate events from the shadows, allowing his minions to act on his behalf, which always makes it more fun. Number 3, Dark Phoenix. The Phoenix Force is a multiversal entity that represents the sum total of all life that has ever, currently does, and will ever exist in the multiverse. It has a constant source of power that will pretty much never cease to exist. The young Jean Grey had a friend named Annie, who died in a car crash, and when Jean tapped into Annie's dying mind, she was overwhelmed by what it meant to die. She sent out a kind of psychic signal that the Phoenix Force picked up on from space, and that psychic signal showed that Jean was a perfect host for the Phoenix. When they eventually did bond in the Phoenix Saga, they temporarily became the Dark Phoenix after the entity felt intense human emotions like love and hate and loss, something it never felt before. The Dark Phoenix has immense telepathic and telekinetic abilities, being pure psychic energy. But more importantly, she had control over matter itself. She gives Jason Wingard cosmic awareness, completely overwhelming his brain, and defeats the X-Men hella quick before she flies off across the cosmos, destroys a whole star, dooming an alien race to extinction. She can wipe out the Earth and the solar system easily if she wanted to. The Phoenix is an intense threat and has been involved in so many stories. Number 2, the Beyonder. The Beyonder is a singular entity with no duplicate versions of himself in other universes, similar to the Phoenix. And a lot like the Phoenix, Beyonder is basically like a baby, in that he is a younger member of a race called the Beyonders that are a near omnipotent alien race from a dimension outside of the multiverse. He is himself basically a whole universe. It's really hard to explain. But as he observes Earth and the Marvel Universe and the various races, he grows kinda curious, and the Beyonder decides to study and analyze life and humanity, good and evil, and conflict. And to that purpose, he pits Earth's mightiest heroes and villains against each other in the Secret Wars. Now he did this by destroying an entire system of planets and creating battle worlds from the remains and from parts of Earth. So that's one level of power. Beyonder's powers surpass that of Eternity and the Living Tribunal, and he is capable of manipulating reality to his will, being able to pretty much do whatever he wants and grant himself any power he wants. It's more nuanced than that, but it's incredibly difficult to explain, and I only have a limited amount of time, so sorry. Number 1, the Anti-Monitor. The Anti-Monitor was created by Marv Wolfman, George Perez, and Jerry Ordway, and made its debut in DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths series. But his story actually begins billions of years ago with the creation of the multiverse. When a scientist named Krona, who's a guardian of the universe on the Green Lantern world of Oa, tries to use a device that would allow him to witness creation itself, a massive explosion occurs which basically alters the creation of the universe, giving birth to the multiverse. Among the countless alternate realities created in this incident was the Antimatter universe, which is the birthplace of the Anti-Monitor. Now the Anti-Monitor embodies evil and seeks to conquer all of existence, while his brother, the Monitor, embodies goodness and watches over life. But that was changed in the New 52 and then again in DC Rebirth. But I gotta tell you what this character can do. The Anti-Monitor is a being of extraordinary power who feeds on the energies of destroyed universes. Now these energies further increase his power, allowing him to manipulate reality and even travel through time. He can also unleash his energy as bolts or shockwaves to attack his opponents. The Anti-Monitor possesses incredible strength, stamina, and durability, and can even grow to be hundreds of meters tall. He also has an army of shadow demons from the Antimatter universe at his command. However, the extent of the Anti-Monitor's power is dependent on his energy levels, which can be drained in order to weaken him. Still, only another cosmic being like the Monitor or the Spectre is capable of opposing the Anti-Monitor at full power, and even they need help from some of DC's top heroes to put him down for good. Starting off at number 10 today is Null. Null is the literal eldritch god of all symbiotes, their creator. Null existed before the current version of the universe ever even came be, in the black void of nothingness. One of his very first acts after he was awoken by the light created by the formation of the universe was creating the all-black Necrosword. This was the very first symbiote, and it was immensely powerful. Using it, Null was able to slice the head clean off of a Celestial. For this insane feat of power, he was banished to a void where he worked more more and more on the sword, and eventually he broke free and went out into the universe with the intent of wiping out various different gods until he was defeated and he lost the sword to Gore the God Butcher. And if we want to talk about villains who should have been more powerful in the MCU, he's top of the list. Null then goes on to make more and more symbiotes all share a hive mind under the control of Null. They eventually rebel and imprison Null inside the symbiote homeworld Clintar, which is actually symbiote for Cage. He's one of the strongest villains Marvel Comics has shown us. He faced off against all the Earth's heroes and nearly won. He has awoken, enslaved, and controlled Celestials and even defeated the Sentry, ripping him in half and absorbing the Void. The only thing that defeated him was Eddie Brock's Venom, wielding the Unipower, aka Captain Universe, the protector of the universe and the opposite to everything that Null represents. Number 9. Abraxas. Abraxas is the polar opposite of the cosmic entity known as Eternity. This essentially means his whole reason for existing is to destroy all of the multiverse, which, I'll be honest, there are a few different characters in Marvel who exist for that very reason. And funnily enough, a bunch of them are on this list. Abraxas is also tied to the incredibly unstoppable cosmic entity Galactus. Whenever Galactus would consume a planet, it would keep Abraxas in check. So, when Galactus was actually destroyed in a story called Galactus the Devourer, Abraxas was released and begins his path of ultimate destruction. As a cosmic entity, Abraxas's powers are essentially limitless, and his whole existence is kind of important to the universe, which means he can't really be taken out like a normal villain would be. So, the question of how he was defeated is kind of important. In Fantastic Four number 48 to number 50, we learned of an incredibly powerful tool called the Ultimate Nullifier. It was used back then to threaten Galactus and stop him from destroying the Earth. Reed Richards ended up using the Ultimate Nullifier to essentially rewrite reality, remaking it so that Abraxas just never existed. Abraxas is so unstoppable that we essentially needed a Deus Ex Machina to defeat him. Number 8. The Chaos King. Amatsu Mikubashi, first appearing in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, is the Japanese god Chaos, evil, and an aspect of the cosmic being known as Oblivion. Mikubashi ruled and thrived over the Earth when it was nothing more than a formless void of primordial darkness. And as such, his goal now is to bring it back to that age of chaos and void and darkness. He is a primordial being who was imprisoned in Yomi, the Shinto underworld, where he remained for centuries, accruing an army of Oni, Shinma demons, and other monsters. During the events of Ares, god of war, Chaos King attacks Olympus after he had defeated and controlled the Japanese pantheon after the fall of Asgard during Ragnarok. This is what kickstarts his mission in Chaos War, where he slays the Egyptian gods, Celtic gods, Shi'ar gods, and gods of Zen-La. He takes out Nightmare in the Dream Dimension, destroys Mephisto somehow, and casts Mistress Death out of hell, making her literally run away, and releases the souls of the damned. He has the power to defeat Eternity and is practically unfazed by attacks from the likes of someone like Zeus. God Hercules, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and Thor teamed up together but could not defeat Chaos King. To win, this insanely powerful god of gods, Hercules, had to punch him into a portal to an endless void of nothingness, and this was after he had already destroyed about 98% of the universe. Number 7. Galactus. The being formerly known as Galen of the planet Ta lived before the modern cosmos in the previous iteration of the cosmos. Galen gestated with the sentience of the universe for billions of years, transforming into the devourer of worlds, finding sustenance by ingesting entire planets, preferably those with living sentient beings that have much more energy for him to harness. He is sort of bringing balance to the universe, kind of like how life is given and taken away every day on Earth, which makes him an essential part of the universe. He's known for the destruction of the Skrull Empire and has attempted to devour the Earth on so many different occasions. And I guess he's tried to devour other planets too, for that matter, but you know, like, whatever. Galactus is also famous for his heralds though, such as Silver Surfer, the Fallen One, and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, to name a few. And while they are all powerful beings themselves, usually even before they gain the herald power boost, they don't actually hold a candle to Galactus himself. His only caveat is that Galactus's power depends on his planet's consumption. So a weakened Galactus who hasn't eaten a planet has been taken out before, but if he eats like 4 or more planets, he's pretty much unstoppable and has been able to defeat multiple massive mad celestials by himself. He's powered by food, and I think pretty much all of us can understand that. Number 6, the one below all. In Marvel Comics, there is a character called the one above all, who hasn't really been seen all too often, but is essentially the equivalent to God or the creator. We have gods like Odin and Zeus and Thor in Marvel Comics and the MCU, but this is a little bit different. The one above all is like the god of everything, the supreme ruler of creation and compassion. It's even been represented as the writers of Marvel at one point, to give you an idea. So, the one below all, as you can imagine, is the antithesis to this, the personification of destruction and hate. Another way of looking at it is that the one below all is actually the one above all's hulked out form, although that makes things a little bit more complex in some ways. The one below all is trapped in the below place and manifests itself in reality through gamma and gamma mutates. Basically, this means that Hulk and the other gamma mutated beings have fractions of the one below all's power and can be taken over by the one below all for him to try and escape and destroy literally everything. In an alternate future, the one below all actually does this, taking over Bruce Banner's body and using his power to devour the cosmic entity Eternity and eradicate all life in not only this version of the cosmos, but even going into the next iteration of the multiverse, ensuring that nothing in the universe will ever continue to be. Luckily, this is prevented in the Immortal Hulk story, but I'm telling you, go read it. Number 5, the Black Winter. You know, Galactus made this list, but why choose him when we can choose the bigger version of Galactus? Where Galactus consumes individual planets, the Black Winter devours entire realities. The Black Winter, the Star Plague, the Blightstorm, the Rot Blizzard, or the Fimbulwinter if you want, was the one who brought the end of the 6th iteration of the universe, leaving only Galen of the planet Ta, like we talked about before. When the Black Winter arrives in the Marvel Universe, this iteration of it, in the latest run of Thor, Galactus turns an All-Father Thor who possesses the Thor Force into his Herald of Thunder, granting him the power cosmic, and an attack from this Thor only stops the Black Winter for a total of 14 seconds. That's how powerful this multiversal entity is. Luckily, at this time, the Black Winter isn't here to destroy the universe. He is just here for his herald, Galactus. But luckily, Thor turns Galactus into a massive power cosmic explosion that destroys the Black Winter in his entirety, and it's incredibly awesome. Number 4, Thanos. Thanos, who made his debut in Iron Man number 55, February of 1973, has only one goal, and that goal is to conquer the galaxy. Sort of. If you are only familiar with his movie adaptation, then you may not know that comics Thanos is not really much of an altruistic dude. The Mad Titan doesn't seek to eliminate half of life in the known universe in order to create a better one. He simply wanted to impress a girl, but not in the same way you might think. Thanos has a thing for death. In fact, he fell in love with the Mistress Death, who is the physical embodiment of death in Marvel Comics. To prove his love to her, he was going to destroy all the life in the universe, and that's what led to him assembling the Infinity Stones and trying to wield the Cosmic Cube. He's really just a cosmic level serial unaliver. Thanos was born on Titan, a moon of Saturn, and is technically an Eternal, but he possessed a deviant gene which made him very different looking. He was bullied for this as a child, and as such, Thanos distances himself from the society, and he even starts dissecting animals. He has gone far in his obsession with Mistress Death, kidnapping his own mother and taking her apart, training his daughter to become an assassin, and even sending a targeted nuclear strike at his own homeworld. He has the power of telekinesis and matter manipulation, has superhuman intellect, can master any technology, time travel, teleport, and is an incredibly powerful and scary dude. Number 3, the Beyonder. The Beyonder is a singular entity with no duplicate versions of himself in other universes, similar to the Phoenix. And a lot like the Phoenix, Beyonder is basically like a baby, in that he is a younger member of a race called the Beyonders, that are a near omnipotent alien race from a dimension outside of the multiverse. He is himself basically a whole universe. It's really hard to explain, but as he observes Earth and the Marvel Universe and the various races, he grows curious, and the Beyonder decides to study and analyze life and humanity, good and evil, and conflict, and to that purpose he pits Earth's mightiest heroes and villains against each other in the Secret Wars, the very first one. Now, he did this by destroying an entire system of planets and creating Battleworld from the remains, and from parts of Earth, so that's one level of power right there. Beyonder's powers surpass that of Eternity and the Living Tribunal himself, and he is capable of manipulating reality to his will, being able to pretty much do whatever he wants and grant himself any power he wants. It is more nuanced, but it's incredibly difficult to explain, and I don't have that much time, so we're moving on. Number 2, Dormammu. Dormammu is one of a race of extra-dimensional energy beings called the Faultine. Him and his sister Umar are both mutants of the species who seek to consume matter instead of energy, which is a big no-no among the Faultine, and along with taking out their own pops, it caused them to be banished. They both traveled to the Dark Dimension, and eventually Dormammu took it over. Dormammu is the prime enemy of the Vishanti, the gods who give the Sorcerer Supreme his supreme merch, and is stated by Odin to be his equal in power. He is more powerful than even the greatest sorcerers, including Doctor Strange and the Ancient One, and he can banish anyone from his domain, the Dark Dimension, but usually fights them for a bit of the old sport. He also has super strength, astral projection, matter transmutation, interdimensional teleportation, flight, can change his appearance and size, can control the elements, time travel, and project and absorb energy. He's also immortal, if that mattered, and has a regenerative healing factor, which seems kinda useless if you're immortal, but hey, I just work here. And finally, in at number 1 is Shuma-Gorath. Shuma-Gorath is one of the greatest of the leaders of the Old Ones, also known as the Many-Angled Ones. Think like Lovecraftian old gods, and that's basically the Old Ones, so cosmic horror, tentacles, and madness, all that good stuff. Shuma-Gorath is the ruler of hundreds of dimensions and is said to be older than the universe itself. It has many mystical powers, including the ability to communicate and control others across dimensions, create mystical energy blasts from his eye and tentacles, and can transmute things on a planetary scale. He can destroy multiple galaxies with his aura pressure ability, and can destroy realities by using his tentacles to create a ball of energy that he just launches at entire realities. I don't even know how that makes sense. They first fully premiered in Marvel Premiere Volume 1, number 10, and in the comic, Shuma-Gorath ends up using the mind of the Ancient One, Doctor Strange's mentor, as a portal to the dimension of Earth. Doctor Strange goes into the Ancient One's mind to battle the defenses of Shuma-Gorath and fight his way into its realm, only to realize that the only way to win and to defeat Shuma-Gorath is to actually take out the Ancient One himself. He's forced to do it, and it leads to him becoming the Sorcerer Supreme for the very first time. And that's all she wrote.
Among the stars lurk a bunch of weirdos and bizarre intergalactic threats. At least that's what you might see if you look up at the night sky in the Marvel universe. Oh hey, it's Korvac. This is definitely one of the weirdest weirdos out there for me. Even his name sounds so cosmically weird and just fantastic. Zemnu, that's who we're talking about. Zemnu. Reminds me of Xanadu, although Zemnu himself, to be clear, is not at all related to that 80s Olivia Newton-John fantasy musical classic. Sadly. I actually really love Xanadu. Zemnu instead is a Hulk villain. He was an alien cyborg prisoner who escaped from exile only to crash land on Earth, and it gets weirder. Zemnu initially hoped to control the minds of the people of Earth and get them to build him a new spaceship. The problem? Other than him being a criminal, this spaceship he'd have built was so powerful that its launch would in essence destroy Earth. Zemnu is a psionic being who can hypnotize his victims and control their minds. He can also use hosts to heal himself, in essence transforming their body into his until there is nothing resembling them or their mind left. Disturbing? I'll say. Even stranger, Zemnu was technically the first character to be known as the Hulk before Bruce Banner even. Zemnu is actually the original Hulk. Are there any other characters like that you're like surprised that are the original that we don't think of today? Let me know in the comments if you have anyone else. Pretty much everything about Korvac is weird. He is a villain from the future who primarily is based in outer space. He's been a villain of the Avengers and the future-based Guardians of the Galaxy, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, but also at one point achieved ultimate cosmic power, which allowed him to put aside his plots of revenge and his power seeking, and instead seek to rule simply to make the Earth and the cosmos a better, more fair, peaceful, and just place. Still kind of stayed as a villain, but I just love that he's like, you know what, maybe this villain thing is messed up. Maybe I should try a better thing. Still gonna rule everyone though. Yeah. The Builders are still a fairly new addition to the Marvel Rogues gallery, just over a decade old at this point, after first appearing in the comics back in 2012. The Builders are a race of beings who claim to have created most of the known worlds in the universe. Yeah, seeding worlds and influencing the development of civilizations for eons, or so they claim. They are also said to be a perfect race of beings, and when the multiverse appeared to be dying as a result of incursions, they actually took it upon themselves to clean up the mess by basically wiping out complete worlds and empires. They did this to kind of hit the reset button. I also love that they call themselves perfect, and I'm just looking at them and I'm like, I guess that's what perfect looks like, kind of like a bug. The fact that they tried to basically reset the universe though did put them at the odds with the heroes during the Infinity crossover event, which is how, yeah, they're villains. The one who we know as the Beyonder is in fact only a young member of a group of others known as such. The Beyonder is a mysterious cosmic being who became trapped on our Earth and then obsessed with the fact that everyone on Earth was only a part of themselves. As the Beyonder also realized there were many different alternate universes in which they all seemed to also live, making up their total character. Something which of course many Earth beings were just not aware of. He was the one responsible for creating the first battle world in the original Secret Wars event, where he pitted heroes and villains against one another. He is known for his ability to manipulate reality and for his apparently limitless power when it comes to his mental and physical strength. The Beyonder also returned for Secret Wars 2, also a very wacky and kind of weird event, where he instead simply sought to experience basically what it was like to be human, or at the very least an Earthling, and he just lived on Earth for a bit, and people were really weirded out and uncomfortable with it because the original Secret Wars had already happened at that point. Annihilus is weird in the most comic book way for a villain. He hails from the negative zone and is insectoid-like in his appearance. Annihilus basically has a cosmic magic wand known as the Cosmic Control Rod that he uses in his attempt to take over the negative zone. In more recent appearances, however, Annihilus chose to wear this rod as a sort of protective accessory, using it to protect himself against naturally occurring dangers such as aging, as well as heat and cold, in addition to gaining the ability to fly through space. He also initially became a villain of the Fantastic Four because they basically borrowed this magic wand, the Cosmic Rod, to help treat the Invisible Woman during her pregnancy. Maybe they should have asked first? Although admittedly, they did return it after, so. Impossible Man is one of my all-time favorite weirdos from the cosmic realm of Marvel Comics. He's also kind of like a light threat. He's not super threatening, but he sometimes is kind of accidentally. He's kind of like Marvel's equivalent of DC's fifth dimensional imp, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Impossible Man hails from the planet Pop-Up and is known as a Papupian. He is often depicted as being more of a misguided villain than a malicious one. For the most part, he gets into trouble with heroes because of usually a misunderstanding, or because he has a real true love for pranking. Like Mr. Mixie, he is sometimes an ally to the heroes, who he also has been known to torment, and is known for being pretty intensely powerful, having molecular manipulation powers which allow him to change his form, shapeshift, and he can even duplicate himself. Also, he's got a very goofy design that honestly reminds me of a cross between Mr. Mixie and the Coneheads. Man, I love the Coneheads. This hungry supervillain that we're about to talk about is so ingrained in the existence of the universe that we once learned in the comics in an alternate universe that eliminating him would actually be a bad idea. Yeah, even though he's a villain. In this alternate universe, and of course it's implied in the main continuity, Galactus is a necessary constant, and when he was defeated in the alternate reality, and this was revealed, it actually prompted Franklin Richards to take his place. Yeah, there's an alternate reality where Franklin Richards becomes Galactus. I know. The multiverse, anything is possible. Galactus was once a scientist known as Galen, trying to save his homeworld from the end of not just their world, but kind of the entire universe. Sadly, he realized that resistance was futile here, and he and the rest of his people decided to just accept their fate and instead just fly into their own doom. Miraculously though, Galen somehow survived and found himself actually chosen. He was granted great cosmic power, but with great cosmic power for him came great hunger, causing him to eventually become the devourer of worlds that we so famously know him as. So yeah, definitely a threat, but not always meaning to be malicious about it. Although he might not be as bizarre as some of the other villains mentioned here, I'll let you decide, but for me he's up there. Cordyceps Jones is still a pretty out of this world villain. literally. He first appeared back in 2017 in Rocket issue number 4 and was created by Al Ewing and Adam Gorham. Cordyceps Jones is known for having a salacious reputation across the cosmos. He is a 30,000-year-old fungal parasite who, due to his longevity, has made an intergalactic fortune and is known for owning many successful casinos across the cosmos. Space casinos, my favorite kind of casino. Recently, he appeared in the X-Men series where he seemed to be threatening the existence of Earth, setting up a bet for fun to see who can basically be the first to wipe out Earth. Needless to say, the X-Men were not pleased to learn of that and actually planned a casino heist with the help of Gambit's friend and their ally Rocket Raccoon in order to deal with Cordyceps Jones. And spoiler alert, they did. Yeah. You don't want to go up against Jean Grey, you know what I mean? I don't care how old you are of a fungal parasite. Magus is the evil version of Adam Warlock, and we all know how powerful Adam Warlock is. Magus, being his dark equivalent, is extremely dangerous and also has a willing army at his disposal in his own church that he created, the Universal Church of Truth, which, while it sounds probably pretty nice, is actually not very nice at all. They would harshly purify any planets who refused to accept their offer to join them, exterminating all who resisted. Across the cosmos. Yeah, pretty awful. Being that Magus is the negative side of Adam Warlock, he possesses all of his abilities and powers. The evil side of Adam Warlock, Magus' story is a pretty complex one as well. One that is filled with general cosmic confusion, but I'm gonna try to simplify it a little bit for you here. Basically, Magus was created to oppose Thanos. He bumped around through time and he found himself educated by chaos and order, and he used what he learned as principles with which he built a faith and created the Universal Church of Truth, using this religion to fuel an intergalactic holy war. Yeah. Marcus Immortus has to be one of the weirdest cosmic villains we have ever had in the comics, hence why he is all the way up here on this list. Initially introduced as Carol Danvers' one true love, Marcus Immortus made his first appearance in the infamous Avengers issue number 200. Yep, we're talking about Avengers 200 again. From that issue, it would be made to seem as though Marcus was kind of the fated love of Carol Danvers. Although when you laid out his full origin, it was beyond weird, and his behavior here actually seems more downright criminal. Marcus was the baby that Carol gave birth to, a seemingly immaculate conception at first sight. We'd later learn that Marcus was also the baby's father. Just come along with me here. Basically, Marcus abducted Carol because she reminded him of his mom and he seduced her. He then slept with her in Limbo, where he was trapped at that time, before releasing her back to her own dimension, back to Earth, without any memories of what had gone on in Limbo. His Limbo, not Magic's Limbo, just to be clear, they're separate. Carol was his means of escape, as he was able to be reborn in her dimension through her, which was how she had become pregnant, and also how she gave birth to the man who was once her lover, and then he became her son, but he was still himself. He grows up really fast. It's weird. The part where Marcus is made to seem as Carol's one true love comes from her confusion surrounding whether or not to go back to Limbo with Marcus. She feels bad. She's like, he's gonna be alone and maybe I love him. I don't know. This all happens after it's discovered that his presence in her dimension is actually causing it to basically crumble. And she just realizes, I guess she has feelings for him. Miss Marvel leaves the Avengers, weirdly choosing to ride off into the sunset back to Limbo with Marcus. And at the end, we all stood there and went, wait a minute, that was a love story? That sounded like a villain. Number 10, Cordyceps Jones. Cordyceps Jones is one of my favorites of the cosmic villains mentioned on this list. He is definitely a super weirdo. Basically a mushroomy looking space mobster who is made up of fungal spores. While he might sound ridiculous, he is not a villain that you want to underestimate, trust me. He both looks and is terrifying. Most recently using one of his casinos to threaten the existence of the entire planet of Earth by creating a betting pool based around its destruction. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like? Number 9, the Brood. Despite being a bunch of insectoid alien critters, the Brood are actually among one of the most normal of the weirdos on our list. They kind of resemble the monstrous species we see in Alien, and likewise, they are usually known for bursting through people's stomachs. The Brood also seek out hosts to incubate their young, which then of course burst out of the host's bodies to be born. Pretty much just like we see happen in Alien. Something interesting and bizarre that we know about the Brood too is that they don't just do this for survival's sake, sake, because, it's required for them to continue to exist as a species, they actually enjoy terrorizing others throughout the cosmos. Inflicting pain and causing panic is something pretty much all brood enjoy, giving them actual gratification from the violent acts that they commit. In fact, in their race, it's actually weird to feel a sense of empathy or compassion for others and to not enjoy pain, which is why Brew was ostracized and left to die by the Brood Queen, before he was then found and taken in by the X-Men. And weirdly, in his case, the ability to be friendly and kind is actually like his mutant power as a Brood, because, that is a mutation. Number 8. The Phalanx. Phalanx are some of the most freaky of the villainous cosmic alien races we have over at Marvel Comics. They are believed to have been created by the Technarchy, but I don't think they have actually been made aware of this connection, probably because the Technarchy doesn't want them to know that. Like the Borg, who likely inspired them, they are a cybernetic race focused on assimilating other worlds. They don't take you to a cube to experiment on you though, but instead infect you with the techno-organic virus, which then slowly changes you into a cyborg, erasing everything within you that is organic and turning you techno-organic, some might say. Number 7. Dark Celestials. So weird. Because when you think about it, the Celestials and even the Dark Celestials actually are a big part of the reason that we even have life on Earth in Marvel Comics. In fact, their existence could even be used to explain the sheer number of superpowered beings that are on Earth as well. The Progenitor, who appeared in AXE Judgment Day after being resurrected by the Avengers and Eternals, is actually the first to have become corrupted. Dark Celestials are just Celestials, godlike cosmic beings, who are corrupted by the Horde. The Progenitor did initially not turn dark, but instead died as a result of this, falling to planet Earth billions of years ago. The Celestial who searched for the Progenitor became corrupted by the corpse they found, and then they were turned dark, thereby creating the Dark Celestials, and actually becoming the first Dark Celestial, but not the first person to be infected by the Horde. Number 6. Horde. The Horde are another insectoid alien race that are so cosmic, it actually hurts me. They're basically the race that is meant to cosmically balance out the Celestials. They are agents of the Fulcrum, along with the Celestials and Watchers. And the Fulcrum, for those who are not familiar with this term, basically represents the balance of the cosmos. In essence, Marvel's God. The Fulcrum is actually known by another name that many may more commonly recognize from Marvel Comics, the One Above All. Yeah, so like I said, basically God. The Horde are therefore just made to be a force of destruction to counter the Celestials' force of creation in the universe. Why do they look like insects? Probably because it's just creepier that way. Why did they choose to corrupt the Celestials? Because they could. I'm not really sure how all that factors into the Fulcrum's plans, or if it does at all, but it's a thing that happened at least, so hey, there's that. Number 5. Raquel. I never know how to say this name. Raquel isn't a strange cosmic villain in the sense of her appearance or role, but more is mentioned here because she suddenly popped up in the comics after years of being dead, which is what makes her kind of weird. It had been so long that her return was mostly met with confusion from fans at that point, because many who were reading her reappearance didn't actually know who the heck she was. Even I had to do some digging to fully understand the importance of just who this character is. Raquel was once one of the rulers of the Skrull Empire. Unlike Veranki, who was made queen after the Skrulls' homeworld fell, and actually who a lot of people thought I think Raquel was at first, Raquel was actually the Skrull Empress, back when the homeworld was still around and doing well. Raquel first appeared back in 1979, and would perish in the comics in issue 257 of Fantastic Four in 1983, only a few short years later. She returned only a few short years ago from now though, so like it's 2023 now. I think she reappeared back in like 2020 or something like that, or 2021, in the Empire event, where she was revealed to be Hulkling's grandmother who survived the destruction of Tarnax 4, and who had been working behind the scenes ever since undercover as a Kree pursuer, while putting into motion a plan to make her grandson ruler of the United Skrull and Kree empires. Which is like, what? That was me when I found all that out. Number 4. Annihilus. Annihilus is weird in the most comic book way for a villain. He hails from the Negative Zone and is also insectoid in appearance, like so many others on our list. Annihilus basically has a cosmic magic wand, if you will, known as the Cosmic Control Rod, that he used in his attempt to take over the Negative Zone. In more recent appearances, however, Annihilus actually usually chooses to wear this rod as sort of a protective accessory, using it to protect him against naturally occurring dangers such as aging suffering, heat, and cold, in addition to gaining the ability to fly through space. I mean, at the end of the day, Annihilus is like kind of an insect, so he needs to be protected against those things. He also initially became a villain of the Fantastic Four because they borrowed the Cosmic Rod to help treat the Invisible Woman during her pregnancy. Though admittedly, they did return the Cosmic Rod, so I don't know why Annihilus is so angry. I guess if you need something to live though, you'd be like, hey, don't just take that. Number 3, Galactus. When you think about it, Galactus is a pretty weird villain. He's basically a giant man who can fly through the vacuum of space, although he usually prefers to do so from within his own even more enormous spaceship, because I guess he likes having his things with him, who wears a very large hat, has much hunger, and as a result, basically eats planets. Oh, and he's also basically a universal constant, meaning that without his existence, the universe is kind of thrown off balance. Despite being an antagonist, you also kind of need him to exist, or at least, I mean, you used to need him. I don't really know what's happening with that. Recently, Galactus got dusted in a fight involving the Black Winter and Thor, and the universe still seems to be existing without too much disruption right now. But even that is weird, because if we established how Galactus is basically a necessary evil earlier, you'd think his death would cause things to get pretty wonky pretty quickly. Although, to be fair to Donny Cates' current Thor series, that's likely coming in due time, because it was kind of hinted at that, yeah, killing Galactus may have been a bad move. Number 2, Impossible Man. Impossible Man is one of my all-time favorite weirdos from the cosmic realm of Marvel Comics. He's kind of like Marvel's equivalent of DC's fifth dimensional imp, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Impossible Man hails from the planet Pop-Up and is known as a Pop-Upian. He is often depicted as being more a misguided villain than a malicious one. For the most part, he gets into trouble with heroes because of a misunderstanding or because of kind of his love for pranking. Like Mr. Mixie, he is sometimes an ally to the heroes who he has also been known to torment, and is known for being pretty intensely powerful, I'd say, having molecular manipulation powers which allow him to change his form, shapeshift, and even duplicate himself. Also, he's got a very goofy design that honestly reminds me of a cross between Mr. Mixie and the Coneheads, and I love it. Number 1, Xemnu. Definitely one of the weirdest weirdos out there for me. Even his name sounds so cosmically weird and fantastic. Xemnu. Reminds me of Xanadu, although not at all related to that 80s Olivia Newton-John fantasy musical classic, to clarify. Sadly, I wish Xemnu was Xanadu-themed, a Xanadu-themed villain. What would that even be like? I don't know. I'm here for it. Xemnu with like some roller skates on. Xemnu is a Hulk villain. He was an alien cyborg prisoner who escaped from exile only to crash land on Earth. Already that sounds pretty wild. But hey, it gets weirder. Xemnu initially hoped to control the minds of the people of Earth and get them to build him a new spaceship, one that was so powerful that its launch would actually, in essence, destroy Earth. Xemnu is a psionic being who can hypnotize his victims and control their minds. He can also use hosts to kinda heal himself, in essence transforming their body into his until there's nothing resembling them or their mind left. Even stranger, Xemnu was technically the first character to be known as the Hulk before the creation of the Bruce Banner turned green giant version of the character, which is even weirder to think about. Xemnu's OG Hulk.
In at 10, Ego. When the mysterious cosmic being known as the Stranger visited his home star in order to conduct an experiment that would eventually cause it to go nova and destroy the twin planets orbiting it, the scientist named Egros started to work on a way to save his race from the impending doom. On the eve of destruction, Egros had his people moved to bunkers that he had set up at the planet's core to protect them, but things began to go downhill when the sun went nova earlier than expected. With no time left to seal the chambers and assure the survival of his race, Egros tried in vain to reach the underground vault before the solar shockwave could hit him. However, this was not the end for him. Egros was soon merged with every living thing destroyed by the sun, including his race, so that's how the Stranger made Ego the living planet. A second living planet, also known as Alter Ego, was created by the Stranger as well under unknown circumstances and then given to the Collector. But I mean, come on, a living planet? That's weird. That's weird. In at 9, the Batman Who Laughs. The story of Batman from Earth -22 is not much different from that of any other version of Batman. When he was a boy, Bruce Wayne watched his parents get killed in an alleyway, vowing to take vengeance against crime. He trained for years to become the hero of Batman, fighting supervillains in Gotham City. But everything went sideways for this Batman when the Joker started a spree across Gotham, taking down everyone he could. The clown had discovered that he was dying from the same chemicals that turned him into what he was, and wanted to take everyone with him. He killed all of Batman's enemies, including including the Penguin, Catwoman, Killer Croc, and the Ventriloquist. And the Joker also killed Commissioner Gordon, who had accidentally sprung an acid trap in his notebook that melted his face off. Very Raiders. After destroying a hospital and recreating the scene of Bruce's parents' death in front of him multiple times, Batman finally lost his control and broke this Joker's neck. Unbeknownst to Batman though, the Joker had exhaled a toxin that he had contained within his heart that infected anyone close to him if he had died, which in this case was Batman. This caused Batman to snap and basically become the new Joker, which after he took over Earth -22 and then gained cosmic powers. So yeah, that's freaking nuts. Plus, this dude just looks crazy. He's like very, what's the one with the pinhead? Hellraiser. He's very Hellraiser if you look at him. He is. And it ain't Chaos King. Amatsu Mikaboshi, revered as the deity of evil, chaos, and the stars in the Shinto faith of Japan, occupies a unique position in the cosmic hierarchy. Despite not being classified as Amatsu Kami, the primordial entity exists as an embodiment of ancient malevolence and was eternally imprisoned within Yomi, the Shinto underworld. Originating as an extension of oblivion, the cosmic force represented the void, preceding the birth of the universe. Amatsu Mikaboshi embodies the primordial darkness and chaos that predates creation itself. As a counterpart to eternity, its power was diminished upon the emergence of the universe, leading to its integration within Shinto cosmology. According to Shinto lore though, during the time when Earth was an unformed void immersed in primordial darkness, Amatsu Mikaboshi held dominion over it. However, the elder deity of Gaia within the Marvel universe, taking the guise of Azanami, and the youthful Amatsu Kami known as Azanagi, wielding the divine jeweled spear, united to shape the islands of Japan and formed the formless abyss. This act of creation ended the era of the Dark God, but I mean still, he exists within Marvel and is a villain, so how are you supposed to fight literal darkness? This is like Supernatural Season 9, okay? You're fighting God's sister basically. That's how I see this, and that's nuts. That's insane. And it's 7, Bizarrenage. Bizarrenage has got to be my favorite Amalgam villain at this point, okay? Because I can't believe that I didn't know this existed prior to a couple of lists ago, okay? A combination of Bizarro and Carnage, for crying out loud, is like the best thing ever. Introduced in Spider-Boy #1 from 1996, Bizarrenage was made through a botched experiment at Project Cadmus in an attempt to replicate alien DNA. The white goopy creature they created went crazy and began destroying everything and everyone in its way. Then Spider-Boy arrived and battled him. So Bizarrenage wanted to be Spider-Boy, so he tried instantly to kill him, but was eventually defeated by getting tricked by Spider-Boy and sucked into an energy containment unit. This thing looks like if Anti-Venom was Carnage, and honestly, I could not be happier because this is such a badass character. I wish that there was more of him. I love it so much. Okay, I can't believe that this exists. This is so dope. I kind of want to cosplay this, if I'm not gonna lie, okay? There's not much about him, but he's still super sexy because we all like some white goop. And it's 6, Annihilus. Annihilus is an interdimensional insectoid conqueror and tyrant hailing from the Negative Zone, a pocket dimension located on Earth 616. When Annihilus discovered the opposing force, the Negative Zone's counterpart of the power cosmic, after long years of failed quests, he finally had the power to fulfill his dreams. With an entity named Ravenous who wielded this power, he invaded the positive matter universe through a portal known as the Crunch. Many worlds and many heroes fell before the Annihilation Wave, and the Annihilation Wave was Annihilus's interdimensional invading force. It was an incredibly powerful force which laid waste to galaxies, slaughtering numerous worlds, and had captured or killed multiple cosmic beings. And Annihilus came close to accomplishing his goal of destroying everything, even taking several Galactus heads, but by that I just mean like heads of multiple versions of Galactus. However, he was ultimately unsuccessful, but he came even closer to winning and destroying reality in What If Annihilation Story, which I hope we get to see in the next season of the Disney Plus series, since that actually takes place shortly after Civil War. But okay, come on, if you have a whole wave called the Annihilation Wave named after you, yeah, you're good. You're on the list. Halfway through, in at number 5, the Negative Speed Force. The Negative Speed Force originated as an extra-dimensional wellspring of energy that Eobard Thawne tapped into during his quest to gain superhuman speed. Speedsters who are connected to the Speed Force can, through intense fear, hatred, and anguish, forge a connection to the corrupted limited force known as the negative speed force. This malevolent entity harbors a deep-seated grudge against Barry Allen, holding him responsible for the demise of his own embodiment, and in the CW series, in an act of retribution, the negative speed force orchestrated a plan to make Barry relive the tragic day of his mother's murder through a convergence of circumstances and a mystical blue crystal tied to the negative speed force. And Barry was transported to March 18th, 2000, the fateful day etched in Barry's memory, to ensure this prolonged presence within that era and the trauma of that day continuing on for a while. The negative speed force disrupted a temporal wormhole that Barry sought to utilize his return to the present, but they stopped him from doing that. The negative speed force seized control of Joe West, Barry's trusted ally and basically father figure, but also his father-in-law, which is a whole other story. But the negative speed force used Barry's friends to try and attack and destroy him, which is insane, okay? I honestly didn't expect the negative speed force itself to be a villain, but hey, it happened. The show's in its final season. It's fine, it's allowed. And at 4, Ultron 1. This is probably the most insanely overpowered version of Ultron that we have ever seen before, and it's coming from the MCU no less. Oh, and spoiler alert for those who aren't caught up on the What If Disney Plus series, but I mean, it's been out for a while, so it's your own fault. The history of Earth TRN 906 was the same as the MCU until Ultron was able to secure what would have been Vision's body for himself. Ultron managed to download his consciousness into the synthetic body that he had created, thus killing the Avengers and decimating life on Earth. After killing Thanos and taking the Infinity Stones for himself, Ultron remakes the universe in his image. He decimated the Earth, absolutely wrecking everyone in it. He even killed Captain Marvel, Hulk, and Thor, and eventually discovered the Watcher and the multiverse. This version of Ultron literally sliced Thanos in half with the Mind Stone, which revealed that the biggest mistake that anyone made in the MCU was destroying the Mind Stone. But after gaining all of the Infinity Stones, he goes shot for shot with the Watcher, who is a literal cosmic entity that shouldn't really have a true corporeal form, but yeah, hot damn, this is overpowered to the max. This dude is, yeah. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mxyzptlk possessed reality warping powers, with which he enjoys tormenting Superman, or making life difficult for him. But I mean, come on, okay? This dude's getting on this list. His portrayal has been varied, with him being an outright supervillain sometimes, an anti-hero others, but in most of Mxyzptlk's appearances in DC Comics, he can be stopped by tricking him into saying or spelling his own name backwards, which sends him back to the 5th dimension. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. And then he has to stay there for at least 90 days. That's 3 months, bro. Come on, okay? What is this, the American justice system? Put him back for longer. But after Crisis on Infinite Earths, he had a new requirement that needed to be met in order for him to be sent back, such as Superman getting him to paint his own face blue. I don't know why, but like, this is one of the few villains that uses Superman's other weakness, magic, against him instead of just kryptonite. But like, come on, okay? This guy just has the ability to warp reality and do whatever he wants. And then since he comes from the 5th dimension, he isn't bound by the laws of 3-dimensional beings, whatever that means. I guess this dude sees polka dots as like 3rd dimension stripes. Also, bro, what's with your name? Okay, I get that it's supposed to be hard to say, so that it's hard to say backwards, but cut a guy some slack. You're not Rumpelstiltskin, okay? Just chill. But ultimately, in at number 2, Galactiac. A combination of Brainiac and Galactus, the seemingly ageless entity known as Galactiac is the ultimate synthesis of mind and machine. He traverses the farthest reaches of space within the Amalgam universe, draining the lifeblood of planets in order to recharge his energy cells. But Galactiac does not completely obliterate the planets that he raises. Rather, he always miniaturizes a section of each planet to preserve and to study. Ben Grimm from the Challengers of the Fantastic attempted to destroy Galactiac's machinery, but Grimm's actions merely succeeded in gaining Galactiac's attention and arousing his wrath. Galactiac used his cosmic powers to transform Grimm into the monstrous four-armed thing, which was a mindless minion devoted entirely to Galactiac. Meanwhile, the Guardian had transported Johnny Stormtrooper into the body of the Galactiac in order to destroy the planet-devouring menace from within, which is just nuts. His first appearance was in the Challengers of the Fantastic #1 in 1997, and honestly, this is one of the scariest beings in the Amalgam universe. universe, okay? Brainiac and Galactus are already powerful on their own, but combined, sweet heavens to Betsy. No thank you. And finally, at number 1, brothers. The brothers stand as cosmic beings representing the DC and the Marvel universes, symbolizing the vast multiverses that embody them. These entities possess such immense power that even the Living Tribunal and the Spectre pale in comparison. While referred to as brothers, they transcend traditional gender roles because, you know, they're just gods. They're literally just the universe's anthropomorphized, okay? During the dawn of existence, they were just chilling, okay? They were like entirely everything save for each other. And they're actually villains within the Amalgam universe storyline. What the hell? You are literally fighting your universe. Do you understand how stupid that is? I mean, it's like, it's kind of stupid in a good way, but also stupid in like a what the hell, who would have thought of this kind of way. I mean, I love it, but yeah.